All right. Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. Good to see you all again. I hope you're doing well. So, it was really nice to chat with you the last session about the overall choral communities of your country. And we're excited today to talk about something that I know I can speak for a lot of my colleagues and friends is what are the music that you all like to perform in your choral communities? What are some of the things that are unique to your choral communities? So very quickly as an introduction, we have again with us Jelena from Iceland, Lucien from Senegal, we have Anna from Colombia, and we have Leon from Hong Kong. So we're excited to talk to you again. So let's start off with just a general sense of what are some of the uniqueness of the compositions you like to sing with your choirs in your country. So we'll start off with Jelena.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you again. So in Iceland, the choir that I work with, I guess you could say our repertoire is entirely unique because we perform original music by our members. And many of them are musicians in their own right. They're singer-songwriters or composers. And so we perform their repertoire. In many cases, that has been specifically written for the choir. But if I were to talk just generally about Icelandic choirs and the repertoire that's unique to them in Iceland, there's a lot of original music here, both contemporary music and a long tradition of vocal music. Instrumental music didn't really take off in Iceland until the 20th century, when some Icelanders, kind of in the beginning of that century, went abroad and studied music in Europe and then kind of brought back this European classical tradition. But before that, most music was vocal, and you had church choirs and sort of traditional melodies. So there's a long history of that, and choral music is very much still rooted in those traditions today. Lots of arrangements of Icelandic folk songs and that sort of thing.
Awesome. Thank you, Jelena. And what about Lucien and Senegal?
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you again. So in Senegal, you can find Senegalese traditional songs composed or arranged by local composers or musicians, religious or secular, church song too, and songs for live events like lullabies, wedding songs, funeral songs or work songs, peace, wrestling or feast. So in my choir, particularly, we work around the African piece because it's an intercultural choral group, and we work on African pieces, and most of the pieces come from South Africa, as you can imagine. So there are many songs from West Africa too, and vocal songs, and using traditional instruments like drums, kora, and not too much instruments like piano or guitar. It's very scarce in concert and in our works, our rehearsal.
I have some
That's
question
all.
for you, Lucien. So you said
Mm,
not much instrumental, so just a lot of vocal a cappella
a cappella, yeah,
in
a
different
cappella, because
parts.
in our repertoire, the message is very important, and the words are most important that the music sometimes, most of the times.
That's
So we
awesome. That's
use
good to
vocal
know.
music, yeah, and
And
dance.
yeah, and dance, of course, and that is
Of
such
course,
an
yeah.
expressive part. And I
Yeah.
like that you said that there's a lot of songs surrounding life events, and so that makes me think that of a lot of events that you will come up with. There's always a lot of singing. Is that right to assume? So
Yeah.
weddings
You can,
and
yeah, weddings from the beginning, the birth, the lullabies, and when there is an event in the life of each one, there's always songs, always songs. So traditional songs are always used when you celebrate an event. So we sing and dance every time, every time.
oh, that brings me so much joy to hear. Thank you, Lucienne. And Anna, how is it like in Colombia?
Well, like I'm to be honest, I'm a little like thinking in the word unique means. Yeah, but I guess like in like music in Colombia, and I think in Latin America, it's unique. I having trouble with that word, but anyhow, it's interesting because like we are a mix of cultures. So depending from where is the music, you can sing it in a different way, or the music is very different, like Aboriginal music, like traditional Aboriginal music, or music composed inspired by Aboriginal music is way different than if you were going to sing some of the African music, like influences of African music that we have. So like in Colombia, only Colombia, like we have, like if you go to the like closer to the oceans, like there is more African music, like inspired African music, or like connected with African traditions. And then more in the mountains are more like Aboriginal music. And then we have also in the mountains music from Spain. So like what is unique is like so many different genres within only one country. And then so many different ways of singing, like more like we have boleros, which is more like from European tradition with Aboriginal, like you sing it with more bel canto style, and then the Aboriginal music is like you sing in a different way as well. So it's like that for me is very interesting, and I love to try that with my choirs, just playing with the sound of the music itself, like just going more with the roots of the music.
It sounds like there's, sound from the sea and the sound of the land, and just a lot of different varieties. I would love to pick your brain and talk a little bit later about the Aboriginal music. What are you tell us a little bit more about that too. Okay, so we'll come back to that thought as well. I wanted to give you a chance to think about that. And Leon, what about the music in Hong Kong?
I think in Hong Kong, the most unique choral repertoire should be those choral pieces sung in Cantonese, because actually our identity is defined by our mother tongue. So Cantonese is our mother tongue, and the dialect that's used by most of the people in Hong Kong. I think it is those pieces in Cantonese is the most unique repertoire in our choral communities, and it's quite interesting that because choral music has quite a short history in Hong Kong. Before 180 years, exactly 180 years, in 1841, the Britain occupied Hong Kong, and we start from a little village and become a port, and then and now it's a contemporary city. Choral music we developed from nothing to a popular activities in Hong Kong. So we don't really have something really traditional, and it's quite disconnect from the folklore in Hong Kong. So nowadays, if you go to see what songs that those Cantonese songs sung by the children's choir, you may find that mostly are recently composed, and the topics of the lyrics may be it's about the modern life, maybe about shopping, maybe about go to school, and something like that. So it is it's quite cosmopolitan. I may call it our choral music.
That's a great way to describe it. Now that you mentioned that, actually, it reminded me of some of the songs that I sung in Hong Kong when I was a child. Oftentimes, it's very relatable. It's something about putting a backpack on and going to school, or looking at the flowers and grass, because it's just the everyday life. So it's very interesting. Like in Leon's sense, is very everyday life, and in Lucien's sense is, there are live events. So all of you kind of briefly mentioned about the folk culture and also the traditional music that might have that is existing in your core communities, obviously. And sometimes I feel when we are here in North America, and people will be like, okay, we're looking for an African songs, and right away they just go straight into looking at some of the traditional music and some of the rearrangement or transcription, or even, dare I say, a North American composer using the style of that sense, and there's a little bit of issue there sometimes. But I want to know about your culture and your choral communities. How often is it common for your choirs to be singing arrangement of folk songs, or do your choirs have a trend of looking into new choral music more so? This might be a big conversation. Anyone want to jump in? And I'm going to start with Jelena, actually. Yeah, because I was about to ask you too. You were mentioning something about Iceland folk song. Like, do you sing the arrangement of that, or?
Yeah, sure. I also wanted to respond to something that Leon said, because I found it very relatable when you said that the language and Cantonese is something that's unique to the choral community in Hong Kong. I would say that Iceland has something in common there, because Icelandic is unique to Iceland. It's not like English, for example, where it's spoken in many countries. This is the only country where this language is spoken, and especially in an official capacity. So, and Iceland has a really long tradition of poetry as well. That's certainly the oldest art form, and the oldest cultural artifacts that Iceland has are these old sagas that most people have heard of in other parts of Europe and North America, these old literary works. So I think that ties in quite a bit with choral music, especially just having this really long tradition of poetry and then this long tradition of vocal music before there were many instruments. So that's also definitely, the language ties in a lot. And these folk songs are definitely still a huge part of choral repertoire. I would say probably most choirs sing some arrangements of kind of traditional folk songs, Icelandic folk songs, as well as kind of slightly more contemporary, maybe 19th century romantic folk songs, that type of thing. So yeah, that's definitely a big part of choral repertoire. But on the other hand, so is contemporary Icelandic music. There is a lot of contemporary choral music. There are even ensembles that do exclusively new Icelandic music. There's at least one choir that has that mandate. My choir does original music by its members, so obviously it's mostly Icelandic music. So both of those things, I would say, weigh very heavily. They kind of make up the majority of repertoire that Icelandic choirs do. It's contemporary Icelandic and sort of Icelandic folk.
It's very exciting to hear that identity is so strong and so rooted, and so much pride and joy of celebrating music by your people, right? So that's very exciting. And I'm going to come back to you with my questions about, do your choirs do arrangement? Or last time we had a conversation a little bit about the Aboriginal music, and you mentioned something about, keeping the tradition too. So let's tie into that and talk about that.
Well, yeah, it's a big question that I'm trying to organize in my head. Yes, the majority of choirs in Colombia, we sing traditional music. The arrangements sometimes are not, in my point of view, they don't show the richness of its music. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's maybe because I love my country and I love its music that I would expect in choirs to do so much more with that kind of music. That's why I'm trying just to commission and to try to people to compose more. But now are more like arrangements or traditional music. And then I don't know. I think that I'm getting somewhere else. Ask me again the question, please.
You were mentioning about the Aboriginal music that is coming from the mountain part, and I guess my question would be, in where you are with your university choirs, with your community choirs, do you mostly do more contemporary choral work, or is it often that you will have a transcription or a rearrangement of these folk songs, or do you leave them untouched? You leave them for those people who are specialized in doing that and sing those?
No, I try my best to do it because I think that is very important for us to understand and love our own music. I'm trying my best with my choirs just to have the repertoire of the concert, to have it very balanced with music from Colombia or Latin America, and then from Europe or from other countries. And then the way that I organize it is not like the European music at the beginning and then at the end the Latin American music, because it's more passion. But just to mix it all together, just to put it everything in the same level. Because sometimes I feel here that we use Colombian music just as an anchor, like to finish the concert, or when people ask for another one, then you do a cumbia, and so now we have fun. And I don't like it. Basically, it's just I'm trying my best to do a lot of research, which is very difficult sometimes because we don't have tons of publishers or that do the music with the music that I get is just the copy of the copy of the copy of the copy, and then it's not that legal. And then it's kind of difficult sometimes to do that. But to answer your question, I'm trying my best. And trying also to do it with the instruments that we are supposed to do. Like, not everything has a maraca and then a Mexican sombrero, which is sometimes what I see in choirs when they're from other parts of the. Not, I have to say even choirs in Latin America that they do songs in Latin America and then put a Mexican sombrero and then a maraca, and I'm like, that genre doesn't have that. So
right,
it's you're just generalizing, and I understand because it's very, very rich. Honestly, it's very different, the Aboriginal music from the music that has roots in African music or European. It's way different. The instruments, the feeling, the way that you sing it, it's very different. So I understand that it's sometimes too much to handle, but it's not fair to put a Mexican sombrero. It's not that I have anything against Mexicans, but I'm just saying there is way more down there from Mexico.
And do your homework, right? Do your homework and do your research and make sure it's true to the identity of the people and the music that you're doing, and not just generalize as what you said. There's stereotype. I'm with you on that, and I know your research, your doctorate research had a lot to say about that too. So definitely, I mean, people talk to Anna if you want to know more about Colombian music and the proper way of performing it too, because I think it's important to have that authenticity, and that goes to Lucien too. We don't know too much about African music. We have, I have to say, we have a general idea, and we see it and we think that, okay, African music, lots of joyful, lots of dance, lots of three parts. And there are also a lot of people trying to transcribe and write it down. But I know there is a rich history and tradition about passing on by words. And I am interested to know from you, Lucien, a little bit more about that culture. And at the same time, what are your choirs doing? What is the new trend too? Are there more to traditional music that your choral communities are performing?
Yeah, it's obvious that we have a very rich heritage, and it's very various from all parts of Africa. In my choir, we are intercultural choir. We usually sing songs from each part of Africa, and we're trying to collect traditional songs from Senegal, and there's significant characteristics like the tone languages. When we want to interpret to perform successfully an African song, it requires an immersion in the linguistic universe and in the context of oral tradition. It's very important if you want to restore as faithfully as possible the meaning of the text and the melody. So we can see that the rhythm is very important in the songs, and depending of the ethnical group the song come from, you can find the use of functional dimension of the music. So the song is the rhythm as it plays. It plays an essential role in the expression of the message and emotion, depending on the circumstances. So you can see music with polyrhythm or syncopations or with offbeats. It's very often, and the expression of these items is just the expression of the dialogue. The dialogue we used to do with the nature or with people. It's a kind of expression of active listening when you have something like a leader and people, or a soloist and a choir. So they have a complicit relationship between them, and you can find model music too in Africa. It's most of the pieces are model music, and responsorial music too. And of course, you have in the dialogue, you have the body and the music. So they're something like a response to the pulsation of the rhythm through dance, like clapping hands or stamping feet. Stamping feet, yeah. That's
That's
some of the significant characteristic I can show.
Thank you, Lucien. That's always very exciting to hear. So talking a little bit, I think I'm going to pair it with Leon to talk about the Chinese choral music tradition, and Leon will talk a little bit more about Hong Kong, obviously. But oftentimes, as an first generation Canadian coming from Hong Kong, and with an interest in bringing Chinese choral music to Canada, I always get asked quite often about the Chinese choral music. And Chinese choral music is a very big word because China is a very big place. There is North and the South, and then there is myself, who is someone from Hong Kong, which is a very unique identity compared to just China as well. And obviously, I think there is extremely a lot of value and tradition and way too much to talk about in this conversation when it comes to Chinese music, because there's the traditional instruments, there is the folk song, there is the different kind of opera style, but as Leon mentioned, there is also a very important Hong Kong identity that people in Hong Kong are trying so hard to preserve. And Leon has mentioned that there is trying to bring in the Cantonese music as one of his focus. So Leon, in your choir, the Chinese University of Hong Kong Chorus, I know that you all have a mandate as a choir that do very specifically music by Cantonese composers and Hong Kong composers, and often written in Cantonese. Is that right?
Yeah. Actually, Cantonese choral music it's quite interesting that in Hong Kong, for many decades, it's almost only exists in children's choir. We have lots of Cantonese choral music for treble choirs, but we only have very few pieces for mixed choir is written in Cantonese, but fortunately in recent years many other not just CU chorus but many other Hong Kong choirs they started to realize that it's quite weird because we speak in Cantonese but our mixed choir don't have any songs or just have very few songs or just and the majority is the arrangement of pop songs to perform, and many conductors start to commission composers to write original choral music in Cantonese. And after in this year, and I can see people is more get used to including Cantonese repertoire in their program, and I think it is a good phenomenon that I'm glad to see this in Hong Kong, and I have to say actually it's quite related to the that in recent years we have more thinking. Hong Kong people have think more about who is Hong Kong people, who is Hong Konger. And it is one of the results of this thinking among Hong Kong people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. I've also observed a lot about that, especially since I left Hong Kong. I left in 2002, but the handover from Hong Kong, going from British to China, happened in 1997. But I think within the last 20 years or so, there were more and more focus and emphasis on the Hong Kong identity and how to make that unique and special to their own people as well. I want to take the next couple of minutes to open this up. And Anna, first of all, actually, before I do that, Anna has something to say. Go ahead, Anna.
Well, no, I have like a comment and / question because like for me, well, not for me, like there are two kinds. Okay, there is the music which is traditional or arrangements or traditional music, and there is the contemporary music that had influences of traditional music. You know, like for example, something for me is to sing just a traditional music that has an arrangement for choir, and something which is the thing that I most trying my best for composers to compose here in Colombia is just contemporary music, but with Latin American or Colombian roots. So my question for my fellow friends, it will be like how that works in your countries. Like for me, it's more like in Colombia, it's more like traditional music that has some arrangements, but not contemporary music with traditional roots. Like we have contemporary music, but you don't feel that like what it feels Latin American. But anyhow, like in Colombia, we don't have that many composers, for example, which will do that. But I will be interested to hear from the other ones. I don't know. Do I have to ask the names specifically? Or you can just jump in, please? Or you can say, oh, I don't care. Elaine, please help.
I could just jump in a little bit. Yeah, I think I agree there's a very clear difference between, the traditional music that's just arranged for a choir versus contemporary music influenced by folk songs or whatever. And yeah, I would say that both exist in Iceland. There are certainly a lot of arrangements, and I can recommend one specific album, a choral album, which has traditional folk songs, Icelandic songs, that are simply arranged for choir, and they're very very simple arrangements. They're very true to the structure and the form of these songs, which are often just two parts, a lot of harmonies and fifths, modal melodies. That's very typical of Icelandic folk music. And there are tons of choral arrangements that are very simple and kind of stick to that form. And then there's contemporary Icelandic music, and it has sometimes folk music influences, but sometimes it doesn't. I wouldn't say it's a driving force in all contemporary Icelandic music, but definitely foreigners, when they discuss Icelandic music, they often say that there's an Icelandic sound, although it's difficult to really define that. And, many people sort of ask, well, what is that sound? My husband's a composer, and people often tell him, oh, this song sounds so Icelandic. Your music sounds so Icelandic. And it's somehow like reflecting some idea, I think, that people have of Iceland, maybe rather than a particular, existing sound of Icelandic music. I would maybe be interested to know from you guys if you've, interacted with foreigners, when they, and how their perception of your traditional music is different from maybe how you see it.
Yeah. When I invited friends from abroad, 𝔹𝕒𝕓, they were in Dakar 6 years before, and when I invited them to a concert, a performance, what they told me that the music is not polyphony. What we are thinking, it was not polyphony, but it's something like heterophony. That was a comment. I didn't understand very well, but for them, for the western part of country of choral music, they usually compose and arrange with tonic style. And our music is not is a model. So when you hear our music, it's not with like soprano, alto, tenor, or bass, but more with three voice, and the arrangement is not only vertical one, but it's also horizontal. So there's a mix with a canon or the beauty of the pieces are in the horizontal way, not in the vertical only. So because is there the music that reflecting our way of life. It's a dialogue. So we can find a few parts with vertical, with 4 parts or 3 parts with the harmony, but the melody and the mix of the melody of different voices are more important. That it's our way of composing and arranging. And when you listen a piece, local piece, traditional song, arranged by a composer or an arranger out of our country, you can't find the real identity, because that doesn't sound like our original scale of notes or melody. That's what I can share with you.
Yeah, I definitely understand what you said, Jelena. I think there's a perception of people that are not from our culture thinking that this is how African music sounds like. This is the sound of Iceland. This is the sound of Latin America. I think what I find a lot with people asking me about Chinese choral music, and I don't know about you, Leon, but in Canada, oftentimes people will ask, oh, like, wouldn't Chinese music be very pentatonic? Right away it's like, yeah, it's a major pentatonic 5-note scale sounds and produce with a sound that is very nasally, almost kind of like a certain style of a village folk song or something like that. And I always say one of my biggest thoughts is that, what about jasmine flower? We have one folk song called 𝔹𝕒𝕝 𝔹𝕒𝕝, jasmine flower, which get arranged thousands of times here in North America. And I just always jump up and down and say, we have more than one folk song in the entire history of China. And as I keep saying is, like China is a huge place and with a great thousands of years of history. And that there's different characteristic of different region and different topolect, not just all in Mandarin or Cantonese either. There's also Shanghainese and there's also Hakkanese. There's a lot of different topolect. But then the important thing is to realize that different region has a very specific style. And also do not dismiss the fact that there are so much music written within the last 100 year or the last 50 years and the last decade that we are extremely proud of as well. There is some excitement of that, right? So, and then similarly, there's also our neighbor friends of Taiwan, which has a rich culture of its own as well. So I guess if there's one thing I want to say is, there's a lot of different Chinese choral music. There's also Hong Kong choral music. There's also Taiwan choral music. And do the research and talk to people because there are a lot of excitement behind that. Yeah. That's a great comment. Anna?
Yeah, I'm just still thinking about that and I'm realizing that, like, for example, in Colombia, the traditional music is not choral. The majority of it is more like a voice solo. So for me, the arrangements of the traditional music they don't express really what it is, the tradition, that the music itself, for me. But that's why, like, composers that like create music inspired by their own roots, it's so important for me because that's a language that I connect more personally. Like, I connect with my traditional music, but not in the choral way, not singing by a choir, but more like this contemporary music that showed the roots. But I guess it's because of that. Like in Colombia, the majority of the music is not choral. Like, it's not, maybe like some of the Pacific Oceans, that there is like one voice and then a choir that's singing behind, that has tons of African roots. But in the Aboriginal music, it's not tradition to sing in choir. So it's strange. And then if you do a song that is arranged by North American or European composers with Latin American roots, that's sometimes worst. Like, I appreciate that they show Latin American music, but then they don't show it so well. Like, and again, generalizing our music. So yeah, I just wanted to do that comment because. Just going by, like, for me, you are never going to do complete authentic music, and it's okay because you don't have to. But it's very special for me when I find a composer that it's their language is connected with the roots, and I can connect very easily with that. I don't know what I'm saying.
No, actually, Anna, your comment directly segue into my last part of a question I have for all of you, because we're about to wrap it up right now. I want to ask all of you, what are some of the tips and tricks for choirs of other cultures if they would like to perform your music? Do you want them to perform your music, or do you think, no, this is our music, don't touch our music? We might be different. So I want to ask you, what are some of the tips and tricks? And if there are any resources, let us know. If you have any composers that you want us to check check it out, let us know. I can always put it with our video, so don't worry about spelling it out. I can put it in the description box. But yeah. Like, what are your thoughts? Like, would you like people to be performing music of your culture?
Of course, of course, I want more choirs in around the world to sing Cantonese choral music, and you have used the publication by my choir, and you can see all bilingual and all the transliteration are detailed written on the score. If you ask me about the tips on singing Cantonese music, I may say that better find somebody who really who can speak Cantonese to let you know how to read those words, because Cantonese is a tonal language. Okay, I make a demonstration. Dong 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 dong. There are 6 different words. And therefore, for those for those words, actually, if you really know how it actually sounds in its original form, the speaking form, and know the contrary line of the tone, then you can easily grab the melody of the music. And actually, for people who don't speak Cantonese, actually there is an advantage, because in those inner voice or the bass line, sometimes the melodic line of those parts may against the real contrary line of the words. To local people, sometimes we may have difficulty because the words shouldn't be sound like that, but you maybe the 2 words you got to go up, but when you sing, because it's in inner voice or on the bass line, you got to go down, and some of us may go mad. But for foreigners, you don't have this problem. So actually, I may encourage you to try Cantonese music. About if you talk about style, I have to tell you a sad truth that those Cantonese choral music now we can see, actually there is only very few influence or arranged from folk music, because actually if you even ask if you grab in Hong Kong people and ask what is your traditional music, actually they can't tell you. They may only know those pop music. They may only, maybe they can say, oh, the Cantonese opera, the so-called traditional opera, but actually this genre only have about slightly more than 100 years history. It's not really something traditional. So just feel free to use your way to do it, because the Hong Kong culture actually is a very young and hybrid and cosmopolitan culture. You don't have any burden. What is the authentic way to sing a Cantonese song? Maybe there is no such thing.
Just sing it.
Yeah.
Celebrate it. I like that. I like that passion behind that too. Anyone else? Oh.
Yes,
Lucien.
it's quite the same in Africa, like Leon told us about the necessity to know to know the language. It's very important, because as in Asia, maybe in Hong Kong, we have tonal languages here. So you need to have the rhythm. To be honest, we have a lot of syncopations and offbeats in our music. So you have to manage with them, because the weak beats, the upbeat, it's very important in our music. So you have to manage with those difficulties first, and before teaching the melodies or the harmony. So that's what I can share with you. And after, of course, dance, moving bodies, choreography, or stamping feet, it's absolutely necessary in most of our music.
Thank you, Lucien. Jelena?
So I would say absolutely, Icelanders are always overjoyed when other people outside of Iceland appreciate their music or culture, because it's a very small nation. I think every small nation or small culture is just really excited when anybody even mentions them abroad, you know. So it's yeah, Icelandic musicians would love for you to perform more Icelandic music. Yeah, I would agree with the other conductors that the language is the key, and I think that's probably the main obstacle for why Icelandic music isn't performed more often abroad, because most Icelandic choral music is sung in Icelandic. But again, if you have a person who speaks fluently and who can coach you and help you through the language, it shouldn't be an obstacle. It's not more difficult than any other language, I would say, if you have a good coach or someone to guide you. And it's a very small country, so I encourage you to it's just so easy to get in touch with anybody, and everyone speaks English really great. So if you have any desire to learn more about Icelandic music, it's just so easy. Feel free to reach out to me, and I can probably directly connect you to any conductor in the country and just find their number.
Yeah.
In the public phone book. So yeah.
Thank you, Jelena. And I mean, this is why we're doing this, right? Like, we now know we have Leon and Anna and Lucien and Jelena to directly reach out to, and that's an exciting thing. And that's what I always say too, because my research was writing a Mandarin diction guide for choral conductor, but I think we need to try it. No one is gonna speak it fluently the first time we sing it. You know, as much as I want to try to sing in Icelandic, I'm going to do my work and I'm going to learn the language. I'm going to learn as much as I can to sing it and learn the history and do my homework. But if we never try it and just be too afraid to do it, that music would never get out to a bigger, broader audience. So I know I can speak for some of my fellow Chinese choral conductor friends is I would rather see a choir doing their best trying to learn a piece and singing it, even if there's an accent, is okay, because you're taking that first step towards learning that music, rather than someone telling me that I don't want to sing Chinese music because the language is too hard. Right. So, and Anna, what's your final thoughts about tips and tricks for choir singing?
Well, like I believe that in Latin American music, or maybe Spanish Latin American music, the language is not that big deal, because we have only 5 vowels and there is very straightforward. Like, it's not that big deal. And then maybe some of the consonants are different within the countries that you will have to look at for it. Like, from music from Spain has different consonants that in Colombia or in Argentina. So, but for me, like, I connect with what Lucien talked before about oral traditions. For example, when I do traditional music or arrangements of traditional music from Colombia, I try my best to teach it orally. Like, I don't like to give them the scores. For example, like, I learn my song. I do my research, even if I'm from Colombia. Like, see, if it is a traditional song, I go to the roots. So I find a singer that sings it, you know, and then I hear it several times and I try to analyze what that person is doing, how it's singing it, and then I try to imitate that, and then I try to teach it that way, even if it's a university choir or my professional choir. But I believe that when you teach it orally, you teach so many things that you may lose when you give the score. Yeah, like just the feeling, the rhythms, or whatever, I don't know, but for me, it's just like, if it's a traditional music, I will encourage people maybe to try to teach it orally, and then you have to organize your rehearsal very well, of course, because it's a flow that you have to keep going to teach it orally, but which I love. But it's very, very interesting to do that, and how much you can have from your choir when they learn it orally than from the score. There's a tons of research about that. I know, because I read some of them. Sorry. back? Am I back? Yes.
Yes, you are.
But yeah, about the difference between teaching the rhythm and then the song, the music, the melody and everything, and then just teach it orally, which is very interesting. And personally, I love that. And then just the tips, I would say go to the roots, go try to find a traditional person who sings the song. Not everything, not because we are joyful, we have to sing or dance, sorry. We don't have to dance the music. Not everything has a maraca. Like just do the research. And for me, it's just go and try to find a person that sings the song, or at least the genre traditionally, and then you can find there the instruments and the feeling of it. Yeah, but do it, of course. Like, I would love that.
I know. I love that everyone's just throwing our arms up. I was like, yes, do it. I want to say a big thank you to all of you. It's really quite exciting to have a chance to foster this collaboration and this connection within all of these different countries and different continents. We're in 5 different continents right now, I believe. And to be able to learn from one another. And there's so much excitement. And to be honest, again, this is recorded during the time of the pandemic that the world is facing. And obviously, sadly, we're not doing a lot of music at this moment. But our conversation today brought me hope and brought me joy and brought me some ideas to program music, for when, as Anna said earlier in our conversation, is, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It's just, it seems a little far right now, but we will make music again. And when we can make music again, I am so excited to get to know more music of different cultures and broadening my horizon, because this is what we're trying to do. Just a reminder to everyone who might be watching this, we are going to have a session that is going to be live, and you can ask questions and talk to our wonderful guests. As you can see, they are all lovely, energetic, and so warm and welcoming. So I would love for everyone to come and have a great conversation. And if you have any thoughts, please drop us a note on the description box or send us a message. We will convey the message to our guests and get some of your questions asked. And if we don't have any further comments, let's wrap up here. And I look forward to seeing you all one more time for our live conversation for the next time. Take care, everyone. Thank you.